all in a few weeks.
I
But
know.
what it's been a while, Cynthia. Well, welcome
Mhm.
everyone to our Lighting the Torch fireside chat. My name is Candace Miles, but I go by Coach C, as you can see here. And I am the founder and CEO of No Gap Consulting, where I am empowering the next generation of Black women entering into leadership, whether it's the traditional way or non traditional way. What I mean by that is traditional way in corporate or non traditional way as a CEO. Discover their identity as they are stepping into leadership for the very first time. But I am also representing the millennials. And we'll tell you exactly why we say what our generation is. So, like I always say, go ahead and throw a peace sign in the chat for everyone that is representing my millennial. You know, I love me an emoji. Representing the millennials. Go ahead and throw that little peace sign emoji in there. But I am not here by myself. As you can see, my lovely co-host is here, Cynthia. I pass it on to you.
Hello, everyone. Cynthia Haley. And as you can see, I am also known as Tip Energy Coach. I am the CEO and founder of Transition to Infinite Possibilities, where I help corporate professionals navigate their careers, but also elevate in their energy. So at Transition to Infinite Possibilities, we are elevating energy and we are also elevating careers. And I represent Gen X perspective. I don't have a cute little emoji to share right now, although I do love the emojis. But I represent Gen X. But one thing I also want to call out is I'm on the East Coast, and my partner here, Candace, is on the West Coast. So we have a great dynamic going on here, lots of diversity present as we prepare to light the torch today. So, Candace, you want to tell them a little bit more?
Yeah, so those, if this is your first time joining, one, thank you. Secondly, we will make sure that these next 30 minutes that we make sure that we add value because lighting the torch, fireside chat, it is where two generations get together and we light each other's torch by passing down wisdom, discussing wisdom of our leadership experience that we have had over, I want to say it's probably together over 3 decades of leadership.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
3 decades of leadership, but it is truly what we're here about is about lighting the torch, not just with each other, but also to yours. Cynthia, it has been a minute. I am ready to chat
You ready to
in this
chat? Well,
fireside chat.
before we dive in, one, I do want to thank everyone for their patience. We did have to reschedule because I lost my voice last week. So I do want to send a special thank you and continue to follow us along. We really want to keep this going and we want to make sure you're engaged and you're getting a lot of value out of it. Secondly, I do want to also take a minute and just acknowledge those who were impacted by the hurricanes in the Southeast region, whether you're in North Carolina, Florida, Georgia, wherever you're at. Just want to take a minute to say we are keeping you in our thoughts and prayers, and hopefully that you are able to rebound, recover, and get back to the lives that you once had, or even better for that matter. So, want to just take that time to send some acknowledgement to those. And if you're our viewers, certainly.
Yes.
And it's a great segue into this series that we've been doing also around leadership, because this is also a prime opportunity for leaders to step up and truly lead. As you may have employees that have been impacted by the hurricanes, we really want you to tap into that servant leadership, that empathetic leadership, really showing that you can have compassion for those employees that might have been impacted by the storms. So, we kicked off this series with the title, Discover How to Channel Your Inner Superhero into Powerful Leadership. And we started off with, discovering your leadership DNA. Then we went into the power of strategic influence. And today, we're going to round it out with part three, creating a lasting leadership legacy. So, when I think about a leadership legacy, there are two things that come to mind for me. One, I think about leaders that I've had who have had a lasting impact because they were effective at leaving a legacy. And then I think about what kind of legacy do I want to leave? What's important to me? What are my core values and things of that nature? So, as we start to dig into this part of the series, the first thing we want to talk about is, what does leadership legacy even mean to you? And have you experienced it? What did it look like? And if you were to leave a legacy, what would that look like? I have my thoughts and I'll chime in, but Candace, you want to jump in? Tell me your experience. If there's been a leader that has had a lasting impact, what was so special about it? How did they carry that legacy forward?
I always think about, and I'm aging myself going back, but the first leader that ever impacted me and left a legacy that even still lives until today was my high school basketball Coach Clyde Wallace.
Nice.
He, growing up playing sports, especially basketball, I have a love of basketball, so I'm definitely happy that we are getting ready to kick back up the NBA season. But I remember one time in a tournament, and I was in high school, a freshman in high school, and I was still on JV, working my way up to get on varsity by the end of the season. But I just remember in a actual tournament, and the ball was rolling out of bounds, and for whatever reason, I just started walking. And the next day we were sitting in practice, and he actually stepped back and he talked to me about that, and how that he saw that I had this hustle and desire, and that I should never give up, even when the ball is rolling out of bounds. And it, and it's something now, being older and still thinking about that, like, even when the ball rolls out of bounds, keep going, girl. Because you don't know if you're going to save it. You don't know if if it is going to go out of bounds. You don't know what could happen in those matter of seconds. It's him. And then, for a corporate level, I had, and she's been one of our guests before. Well, she's been one of my guests. It's, and I'm gonna give her flowers. Her name is Michelle Maxey. I remember getting into corporate, not really seeing another person, not even really seeing a woman of color. And no, you're good. And just in general, of her sitting me down and having a very transparent conversation with me regarding women of color, and how sometimes, when it's unconsciously done, is that, being a leader, we're seen as strong, that we can take everything. And sometimes we inherit those employees because we're seen that way. Again, it may be unconsciously done. However, it's the straw that's given. And it was very pivotal for me, for her to sit down and to kind of take the scales off my eyes, to realize, oh, I'm in a different ball game when it comes, especially being in corporate America. From startup to corporate, now those are two different two different types of leadership. So coming from a startup and being in an actual corporation, that I was so happy that she took that time to actually mentor me in that moment.
So what I heard from you is, like, having a leadership legacy is one who is willing to see in you what you can't even see in yourself, right? Being able to inspire. And then there's helping to develop you professionally, giving you skills that's going to equip you beyond a tactical skill, I'll call it, something you can learn online. These are soft skills and things that's going to make you stronger and better as a professional, as a woman of color in leadership, right? I didn't play basketball, but I was on the band. So I'll use that as an example for leadership legacy. And if anyone of my high school Bruins are listening, you all know who I'm going to talk about. And that is my dear, dear band director. And God bless his soul. He passed away a few years ago, but he left a true leadership legacy for thousands of students under his leadership. And one of the things that I'll speak on, I could speak on him for the entire 30 minutes, but one of the things I'll speak on is the discipline when you're growing, and whether it's as a student or whether it's as a leader, there's that element of discipline that you're going to need, right? Whether it's setting boundaries for yourself or having to set boundaries for others so that you can grow and develop. Outside of the band, there was another leader in corporate, another one who has passed away, but he left such a strong legacy. And he was the one who saw more in me than I saw in myself at the time, and really challenged me. And if those listening from a former job, we know Tony Garcia is that one. And he was the one who really planted in me a future for myself, how I could see myself really growing in leadership. And he created opportunities for me to really push, grow, and excel to the next level. And so, when I think about those qualities that we just highlighted, I think about myself. What are my core values? What's the kind of legacy that I want to leave? And when I thought about this topic, I thought, I want to lead with fairness and integrity. Mm-hmm. I want to be that one who inspires others to grow. And in my legacy, I also want people to say, she was confident, she was dependable, she was strategic, and she helped me to get to that next level. She listened, and it was less about her and more about how she can help and enable others to be successful. So those are things that are important to me, and that's what I want to leave as a legacy. Anything you want to add on that? Because I know we had like a couple other things that we shared with our audience to talk about.
Yeah, because I think too, when you think about it, and I'm gonna touch on the millennials. It's no longer about the titles or climbing the corporate ladder. It's really about the impact that you're making, and at times it's in real time. Like right. You can't wait to make it, at a later time, because I think too often we're so focused on, well, at least in the past, it's been so focused on success. Like, yeah. I need to hit this target, climb this ladder, build my resume, this level by a certain time at the expense of the people you are leading. Mm-hmm. And true legacy for me is shifting that focus from success to significance. Like you just said.
Love that.
You have to ask yourself, like literally what you just said, how will I be remembered? How many leaders have actually asked themselves that, regardless if you just got into leadership role for the very first time or you have been there? How will I be remembered? Because the fact of the matter is that, especially in large corporations, we're all numbers. Let's just call it what it is. Mm-hmm. We're all numbers.
Exactly.
So it's the ones that report to us. How do you want to be remembered by them? Because that's what you start creating a space when it comes to people that can thrive, that are really challenging these outdated systems and refining success for the next generation that's coming up. Because we know they are some disruptors that is coming up behind us.
Hello. And so, for those listening, to answer that question, how will you be remembered? I would strongly say, one, define your core values. Yes. What are the principles that you hold that you want to be known for? Because your legacy is going to be rooted in how you live and how you show up every day. Mm-hmm. And then ask yourself, if someone were to describe my leadership style 5 years from now, or after I've left an organization, what would I want them to say? So take that, and now let's talk about, okay, you've kind of understand what a leadership legacy should look like, or what you want it to look like. But now, how do you sustain that over time? And when you think about sustaining that legacy over time, it's, how are you going to take on new challenges? Because if you're in leadership, D.L. Hughley said this today on the radio on my ride home. And he said, if you are in leadership, the true test of your leadership is how you navigate the hard times, and how you show up.
Woo.
I was like, you ain't never lie. He gave an example of the CEO of Tylenol when they had a hard time with their product being tampered, right? And instead of falling to the wayside, they implemented a tamper resistant cap. But but beyond just implementing that tamper resistant cap, he shared the secret with his competitors. Like, this is what you can do. Now I'm taking this from DL Hewley's show today, but this is what he did according to DL. That is leadership, because is he didn't just focus on himself. He focused on the people, the consumers, and really helping to, sustain his legacy as someone
Yeah.
who cared and who had compassion and who recognized this was a mistake. It happened. It impacted people. Let me correct it, but not just correct it for me. Let me correct it for the masses.
Yeah.
And you think about that as your leadership style continues to evolve. How are you going to sustain this? How are you going to keep it up? What is going to be important to you as you embrace the change and demonstrate that?
Yeah, because what you just described that's a legacy that no market, I mean, absolutely no market can disrupt it or can erase it by him doing that.
Exactly. When you're stepping into leadership too, and you think about sustaining it over time. Oh, my nose itching. Somebody talking about me. They say when your nose itch, somebody talking about you. I hope y'all talking about me
I
in a
thought it
good way
was
because
your
y'all enjoying this
earring.
chat.
It's not when your earring, or no? I always thought it was
No,
when your earring.
your nose itches, according to the Low Country in the South. Um, but let me keep going because I'll get distracted by my nose itching. So, but real talk, when you're in a leadership role, right? You're coming in sometimes as a subject matter expert, or you're coming in with someone who was able to get things done and solve the problem. But when you really step into that space where you're positioned to leave a legacy, what you're going to do, you're going to shift from being that problem solver to an enabler. And what I mean by that is it's not your show anymore. It's about you helping the next person get in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
If you were to step away, can your team survive without you there? Can
Yeah.
they keep things going in your absence? And that is how you build that legacy, but also how you sustain that legacy.
Yeah, because what you are often, really describing is that it's not static. Like, to build it, it has to evolve over time, with time.
Mm-hmm.
I remember like certain people that I would get that I knew that they were at this point where they were ready to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And people that were ready to grow into a leadership role, I always would sit there. My motto was, I want you to replace me. Because once you replace me, what that means is I'm going up and you're moving in.
Hello.
It's
Yeah.
so, to leave that, you have to be able to stand the test of time. Like, we know right now, AI is here. I know we've talked about it before, but I would always sit there and say, hey, wherever it is that you want to go, we can talk about it. But let's
Right.
actually futurify and figure out what that role is going to look like. And I don't know if futurify was even a word. I could have been making it up.
I did have to
Futurify it.
pause for a minute there.
Look, I used to say it all the time and be like, let's futurify and figure out what this is. But essentially, what I was saying is, let's look at this role that you desire to be in 5-10 years from now. Is it
Right.
even exist? If it is, what is it going to look like? Because that's when you now reverse engineer it and say, okay, hey, I am in the place where I'm taking my leadership hat off and I'm mentoring you to get there. I'm creating this actual plan that is inclusive of what you want to do, not what I want to do, because I want you to get to whatever your next destination is.
Mm-hmm.
Guarantee, like, when you're able to do that and to take a step back, and to understand that, yeah, they may report to you, but it's ultimately, this is their road trip. They are on the road trip of their life.
Yep.
They are the ones in the
And,
driver's seat.
and you can't be selfish. You can't
No.
be selfish. A true leader is not going to be selfish. They're going to want to build a high performing team. They want to demonstrate that, yes, I can have compassion and still be an effective leader. Once upon a time, I heard um, someone say you can't be kind and be a strong leader. Think about that. Is that the kind of legacy you want to leave? A legacy where you couldn't show compassion, where you couldn't be kind, you can't be nice? Now, that doesn't mean be a pushover or, and not have boundaries, but you can be respectful. You can, demonstrate true leadership by just being a human, be humanistic, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so when we think about sustaining your leadership over time, something you can do, actionable, because like I said, you may start off like a subject matter expert and you continue to evolve in your role to where you're now enabling the next person. But to really set yourself up for success, you have to also be willing to learn. You
Yes.
have to continue learning and invest in, additional skills, invest in self-development to show that you want more, because when they see you developing yourself, they're going to want to develop themselves as well. So you have to lead from the front. And as we often say, set the tone at the top. Show that you are willing to invest in your own self-development. You're enhancing your skill set and you are evolving even from a mindset perspective. You're not going to be the same person you were 10, 15 years ago. You might still hold your core values that are true to you, but how you lead should evolve.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I think you was over here on the West Coast listening to my thoughts, because literally what you
We
just
vibing.
described
We
is
vibing.
like, because it's really, to stay relevant isn't about keeping up with the trends. It's exactly what you said. Empathy, curiosity, which is what I just described earlier, by you being curious about what it is that they want to do, but that commitment to learning. You
Mm-hmm.
have to stay committed to learning, because the ones that are meant, that are truly, that you are meant to sit there and to really have an impact in their lives, they're watching. They're
Mm-hmm.
seeing exactly what you're doing. They're seeing how you navigate, because sometimes I even think legacy is not necessarily, you may not even have a conversation with them. It just
Right.
may be in the room where you said something very pivotal. We may have said something very pivotal to you right now that has literally challenged your mindset to think that, oh, and when I'm a leader,
Mm-hmm.
ooh,
Mm-hmm.
Cynthia said this, ooh, Candace
Yes.
said this.
Yes.
That is when you know that you are starting to empower that superpower that we talked about a few weeks ago, and
Mm-hmm.
you are stepping into the person that you are really authentically meant to be.
Mm-hmm. You better tell it, girl. That almost felt like a little sermonette. That was
Oh
real good.
no! Oh no! Look, I already got my little bow feeling very
Yeah,
Patrick
I know.
Lee.
It's real sermonette-ish.
I try to keep it regal, a little edgy.
I love it. I love it. I love it. But to your point, when I left my last company, I had people coming up to me that I didn't even know that said to me, I watched you. I watched how you navigated your career path. I didn't even know these people, but it's a testament that, to what you just said. When you step into that role of a leader, their eyes are on you. They're watching you, not to create this undue pressure, but it's just a reality that how you live and how you show up daily results in your legacy. So what do you want that to look like? Candace, at the top of the session, you talked about who your mentor was in Michelle. And then you also touched on succession planning. Who's going to be the next leader when I move on to the next thing. that's one of the points we wanted to hit on today when we talk about leaving a leadership or creating a leadership legacy, is around mentorship and succession planning. And we hit on it a little bit, but let's really think about what someone can do to actually build the next generation of leaders. Like if there's a new leader out there right now, maybe they're 1 year in and they have a team, I'm making this up, a team of 10. They recognize that, out of these 10 people, I got 3 that's really leading from the front. What can that new leader start to do to build up that next generation of leaders with those individuals?
So it's definitely about sitting with those individuals and figuring out exactly what it is that they want to do, and begin to delegate some things to them, depending on what it is that they want to do, to begin to train them up. I solely believe that when it comes to those first time leaders, this is where I talked about earlier, where you can now kind of take that leader hat off and put on your mentorship hat, because that is a part of what we do as leaders. Is to, once you figure out exactly what it is, and maybe that mentorship may not be directly from you, but by you setting them up with someone who is aligned to wherever it is that they want to go, or whatever it is, if they do desire to get into that leadership role, but you want someone that's not as connected, where they can come in and provide, a different vantage view, because you want them to get exposure to the way different leaders think, different levels of leaders think. Because sometimes, for me, we can take as many courses, we can attend as many trainings, but it's that wisdom that sometimes leaders have, that crab in the bucket mentality, and want to hold on and hoard on to, but you don't know when you're doing that, you're actually, it's a disadvantage for the next set of leaders, because you're not pouring that into them just like someone did it to you. So I for sure would sit there and say is mentorship will be very huge when you're prepping that person and making sure that you're providing them with the tools and the resources that they're able to start building that skill set that they're going to need. Because you already know, you've been there and done it. We know we have been there and done it.
And I think about what steps you can take to build that next generation. To your point, it's not so much those skills, but it's a mindset shift too. And you now have to tap into the skill set of coaching as a leader when you're building up that next generation. And with coaching as a leader, it's more about you having effective listening skills, right? It's less about telling them, hey, all right, I'm getting ready to move on and do the next thing. You're going to be the one that's going to step in and do. They might not actually want to do that, right?
Yeah.
You've identified it. You might see it in them, but that might not be what they want to do. So the watch out there is, yes, you want to build up that team. You want to create that succession plan, but you also want to effectively coach your team. Listen to what they're actually asking you. Listen to what they're telling you about their desires for development, and then craft the way from there. It's less about a tell. It's more about listening to truly understand where they are currently in their position. Sometimes it's meeting people where they're at, but also I don't want to take away from the fact that you might see something in them that they don't see in themselves. But again, it's coaching them to see what you see versus telling them to just go and do it. Because they need to feel it. They need to actually have some accountability with that also, and truly want to go to that next level. So, talked about, we're coming up on time. We're actually over time. Because this is really good. This is really good. And, we really hope people got something from this.
Yeah, because even what you're describing, because I know we're a little bit over time, so y'all just bear with us, because it's we're talking about something that we really feel that you got to really think about. Is what you just described is what I call the 80-20 rule, and it ain't just about dating. It's the 80-20.
You know about that.
The 80-20 rule is that you show up, and in the first time, like within the first 3 months, it's 80% of you talking, 20% of them. And then you navigate to now it is a 30-70, it is a 40-60, it is now a 50-50, but then it starts reversing where the ownership goes onto them. So that 80-20, by the time that 80-20, it's 80% of them coming in and 20% of you. And that's where that active listening comes in, because it should get to a space where you are listening to them and interjecting when you need to. But now they're at a place where they're self-sufficient and know, okay, this is where I want to go. And I know that I have to hop into this driver's seat by myself. I have my coach with coaches here. I have my leader, my manager here to grab. I always say, grab that little steering wheel on the side every now and then to reel you back in. But for the most part, you're on the road to success on your own. Well, no, you are on the road to significance on your own, like I said earlier.
Oh, I love that. I saw we even had a comment on that. That's deep success to significance. So, Candace, so while you're at it, you want to light the torch?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. This is our favorite segment for me, it's one of my favorites. It's where we actually get to light. I should take that back. It's for me. But it's where we get to light each other's torch. But most importantly, we're lighting you guys' torch. And so we've been talking really here about legacy. And it's, to me, aim to be remembered as a successful leader, but not just as a successful leader, but for a leader who has actually helped and reached their full potential, where you're leaving a legacy behind. Focusing on significance, focusing on mentorship, but most importantly, focusing on inclusion. I know we talk about diversity all the time, but focusing on inclusion, where you're including them, real talk right now, including that, because at that point in time, you're not just building a career, you're actually building your legacy that's going to last way past when you are outside of that office that you currently go to every day right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. Well, lighting the torch is a favorite part for me. So you were correct when you said we. And when I was, preparing for this, and I thought about how am I going to light the torch today? And when we say that, what we mean is, we're passing this knowledge on to you, to each other, and want you to take it and pass it on to someone else. And I thought about a quote that I found from Maya Angelou. And it reads, if you're going to live, leave a legacy. Make a mark on the world that can't be erased. And I really love that quote because that says it all, right? So what we can close with is just know that as you embark on this journey to create your leadership legacy, know that it's not a destination. It's a continuous journey. You're going to continue to evolve. You're going to continue to leave impact. And you're going to continue to grow as a human, as a person. You're going to continue to grow personally and professionally. And so the question I'll leave with you is, how will you continue to evolve? So what we want to do also before we close is invite you to come back. We're going to have another session that's really more like a Q&A. We're going to test this out. We haven't done it before. So we need your engagement to join us and share with us some questions. And we're going to give live answers right on the spot. What's important to you? And again, this series was about, tapping into that inner superhero and building yourself up as a leader, whether you're in the title of leadership or you see yourself as a leader in your role. So live Q&A the next time we come back to you. If you want to submit your questions to us in advance, feel free to do so, and we'll share it when we go live to do this Q&A. So that's my my little commercial there for our next session. Candace, anything you want to add before we wrap it up?
No. I think
You're
you
all
did a great
done.
job. I am.
Yeah, all right, light that torch. High five, friend.
Uh-huh.
And thank you, everyone, for joining us. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.